Today we are going to get into the legal responsibilities that go along with business management. So we're going to talk about some legislation. We're going to talk about some ways that businesses can try and support other businesses, and some of it will line up with our ethics unit as well. So what types of businesses actually exist? If I'm an entrepreneur and I want to open a new company, what can I do? So I have 4 types of businesses that we're going to cover. The first is a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship means that you have one single owner. And in a sole proprietorship, the owner is seen as the same as the business. So as the owner of this company, you are legally responsible for any of the business decisions, for anything that is going on with the business. If you own a restaurant and somebody comes in, they slip, they fall, they get injured at your location, and your business is sued, you are personally, financially responsible for whatever is happening in your business if you take part in a sole proprietorship. So this is a pretty risky type of business to get involved in, but a lot of people will do this if they don't have a lot of business knowledge, if maybe they don't have a partner to work with. But typically, if you start off as a sole proprietorship, a lot of people will eventually kind of morph into one of these other types of businesses. So the second type is a partnership. This is essentially a sole proprietorship, but anytime you have more than one owner. So you could have 2 owners, you could have 30 owners. It doesn't matter as long as you have more than one. But again, you're legally responsible for all of the business decisions, but you kind of limit this responsibility because it is equally divided between all of your partners. So if you are sued for $1 million, you would be on the line for $500,000. Your partner would be responsible for $500,000. So you don't have to take that whole burden yourself. You're able to divide it up. The more partners you have, the less responsibility you personally have, because there are more people to divide that liability between. But the more owners you have, a lot of times the less say you have in how the business actually functions. The third type is going to be, again, less responsibility or less liability. And as we've seen every slide or every business type, we get less and less liability. And this is a LLC. And an LLC stands for a limited liability company. So we can see just in the title, I'm telling you that I have limited liability in any of the decisions that are made. You could be a single owner in an LLC, or you could have partners as well. But you are going to have less responsibility for things that happen in the corporation. A good question that's asked a lot in class when we go over this is, if you could be an LLC on your own, why would anybody start and become a sole proprietor? And part of that is because maybe you don't have the knowledge to be an LLC or to seek that out. And also, you have to pay in order to be an LLC. That's something that you have to pay a fee for to be a certified LLC. And if you don't have the cash to put up for that, then you might not be able to take on that title. And then lastly, we have a corporation. And a corporation, again, could have 1 or more owners. But finally, with the corporation, the business owner is seen as a separate person from the actual business. So the owners have no responsibility when it comes to a corporation. They have no legal financial responsibility. So if something bad happens, if you're being sued, the owner will not be held financially responsible. Your personal bank account will never be called into question if you are being sued and you have a corporation. There are some downsides. A lot of those come along with tax breaks. We're not going to talk about that in our note guide, but this is going to be the least risky business type that you could take on. All right, so we've answered that first question, and now the second question. How can companies try and protect themselves from their competition? And a really good way that we try to protect ourselves is what we call intellectual property. And intellectual property is just some legislation or some laws and rules that try and help those who create things. So it's going to try and help people who create inventions, people who make new like authors or song artists or regular artists who try and create things. And throughout the rest of this, we will be calling these IP laws. The three IP laws we have, the first one is going to be a patent, and this one is specific for inventions. So a patent is going to be something that an inventor files for if they come up with something innovative or something revolutionary, and they don't want other people to steal that. This could be in any industry all over the world, and it is going to have a 20-year timeline. So your patent gives your invention protection for 20 years. After 20 years, you have to refile for that patent in order and it get approved, or else people can then legally and freely use your invention. And I know that a lot of people, some questions I've had in the past are that, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of new inventions coming out anymore. Everything's already been invented. But we also think about just innovations. A lot of times, like Nike, they would get a patent on a new style of shoe because it's an innovation on something that already existed. Or a tech company might get a patent on a new way to code something or a new type of technology. That way other people can't steal it. So it may not be something that's brand new. When we think of invention, that doesn't have to be something that no one's ever seen before. It might just be an innovation on an already existing invention. The second is copyrights. Our copyright laws are going to be protecting publications. So this could be a book, it could be an article, it could be a journal entry, any written item. It could also include songs, videos, broadcasts, things like that. And this is the longest IP law. Copyrights last for 70 years. So for many people, a copyright might last the entirety of their lives. If I am 30 years old and I decide to write a song and get it copywritten, then it's possible that my my copyright will exist longer than I'm actually alive for the next 70 years. And then lastly, we have trademarks. A lot of times this is where we connect to actual businesses. Trademarks are going to be for brand names, for logos or symbols like a logo, maybe a special mark or a special indication that you put on your products or services. These are just shorter, so these are going to be for 10 years. And a lot of times you'll be able to identify if something is trademarked. So we can see at the bottom of the M, there's this little circle, and you probably can't see it because it's kind of blurry, but in that circle, it has a little TM. The same with I'm Lovin' It and the same with Adidas. So that shows that these are trademarked items that you can't just steal. I can't open up a burger shop and slap their logo on it because it shows that it's trademarked. They've also trademarked their slogan, I'm Lovin' It. Adidas has a trademark for their logo. So if you are starting a business and your logo is too similar to Adidas, then you could get sued for that. This is just a recap if you missed any of those details. Alrighty, so we know what businesses can do for themselves. And now we want to switch gears and think from the consumer's standpoint. What does the government do to try and protect us as buyers? So firstly, they put together some government agencies. So we have 4 agencies that we're going to talk about. The first is the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, and their whole focus is about our public health. So they're going to set out regulations to protect customers when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, when it comes to the food that we're buying at the grocery store, when it comes to radiation that we might be getting from whether that be technology, from businesses, things like that. And they're also going to monitor medical things like medical tools that are used in operations and checkups and veterinary materials. So the FDA is focused on the things that are going into our body and the public health or the impacts that might have on us as customers. The next is the EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency, and this is all about focused on the environment. So if we are a business owner, the EPA is going to set regulations that control our pollution, how we are going to be dumping our hazardous waste, how we're dumping our regular garbage, the carbon footprint that we can leave as a business, because at the end of the day, we're all still citizens, and so we have a right to live in an environment where the environment's being protected, where nature's being protected. And so a way that the government can do that is through this agency putting limitations on businesses so that they are not knowingly damaging the environment. Our next two are the EEOC. This one directly connects to the HR unit that we have gone through. And this is going to be protecting employees from discrimination in the workplace. So in our HR unit, we learned that we cannot hire or ask any questions about some of these main topics in an interview, and we cannot fire employees for a variety of reasons. And those are things like age, gender, country or national origin, their race, a disability, anything that doesn't directly affect their job performance, we cannot ask about or we cannot fire them for. Because all of those are forms of discrimination, whether you feel like they are or not, they are discrimination. And then lastly, we have the FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and that protects consumers through finances. So it's going to protect our money. When any money that we have in the bank is going to be insured by the government. So if the stock market crashes, we're not going to go back into a severe depression. You're not going to lose all of your money because the stock market crashed. The FDIC was put into place to prevent that from happening. Another piece of legislation we have that tries to protect the regular people, let alone business people, is one thing called insider trading. So as a regular citizen, you may invest in stocks or bonds, and you are not going to be getting all of the inside information because you are not within that business. So we have made what we call insider trading illegal. And insider trading is when you have secrets about how successful or unsuccessful a business is going to be in the near future, and then you buy or sell stocks based on those secrets. You're not allowed to do that because that is not common knowledge to everyone else who is invested in that company. And so a way that we combat insider trading is by making business professionals disclose all of their stock information online. So if I am pretty high up, I'm a business person who is pretty high up in my company, and I disclose online that I have sold all of my stock in this company, or I have bought a ton of stock in this company, that shows that I have a little bit of an insight or some secrets that I knew about, and then I can get arrested for that. There have been famous people, celebrities, who have been arrested for insider trading because it is illegal. One way that people can get around this is what we call congressional trading. And we've kind of coined this outsider trading. You are not a business professional working within this business, but you still might hear secrets about businesses or about the stock market if you are a member of Congress. And while the government's doing their best to prevent this, people in Congress do not have to disclose their stock information online, and they don't have to purchase on public stock exchanges. So it is really, really hard to figure out if people are actually taking part in outsider trading as a member of Congress. So it's hard to catch them, hard to get arrested for congressional trading because you are in that position of power. But if you're not in Congress, then you would be taking part in insider trading, which is illegal. And then we have some legislation as well. So some business laws that we have laws that prohibit price discrimination. Price discrimination means that I'm going to charge different customers different amounts for the same product. So if I own a Walmart and I own a Walmart in Liberty is a relatively affluent community. People have steady income. So I might charge more for a water bottle in Liberty than I would somewhere else that has less income. That is illegal. And then additionally, we want to make sure that we do not offer any false advertising. You cannot, as a business owner or a business manager, say that somebody uses your products if that's not true. You cannot say that they have certain side effects or certain results if there's no research to back that up. We have to be as honest as we can in our advertisements, or we try to make sure that businesses are being as honest as we can in their advertisements. And then we also have what we call antitrust laws. And antitrust laws are the laws against monopolies. Antitrust is developed to try and help promote competition. If there's a monopoly, that defeats the purpose of competition. So these two antitrust laws that we have right here are just ways that we can try and prevent monopolies from forming or try to break up monopolies that already exist to create more smaller businesses who then can compete against each other. And when we get to the end of the unit and we get into our test, I don't expect you to memorize the names of these laws or what each law is specifically doing, but I do want you to realize that there are laws in place called antitrust laws that are used to prevent monopolies from existing. And then lastly, our last topic is going to be what businesses can do to try and support other businesses. And one way that we do this is being a fair trade business. Fair trade means that as a large business in the United States, I'm going to try and help or support small businesses in underdeveloped countries. So United States is a developed country, and I'm going to try and support those in underdeveloped countries. So if I'm Starbucks, I might buy from a small local coffee producer in another country, in an underdeveloped country, rather than buy it from a large corporation. So some of the important pieces of fair trade are that this trade must be direct. I need to work directly and communicate directly with those local producers, and I have to pay them a fair price. So in order to be working with a fair trade organization, there is a guaranteed minimum that this local producer is going to earn because they still deserve to make money. They still deserve to support their families and to support their communities. In order to be a fair trade business, you have to have decent conditions. So there have to be safe and healthy working conditions. There can't be child labor. You can't be working crazy hours in a day. You have to be given breaks. You have to offer your employees lunches, things like that, lunch breaks. Additionally, they're really just trying to promote the communication, they're trying to promote relationships, and they're trying to really promote the culture of these local producers. We might have some community development, so a lot of the funds that go into these fair trade are going to be used to improve the community, maybe build schools, build hospitals, build community rec centers, just support the people that are in these underdeveloped countries. And then lastly, promote environmental sustainability. So being eco-friendly, maybe using organic products and not producing large amounts of pollution are requirements to be listed as a fair trade organization. And that is where our note guide ends today.